Right. Hello, everyone. Waiting for some more people to flow into the meeting before we start. All right. People joining. That's very good. I guess we will give it another minute before we kick it off. All right. I guess now it's 2 minutes past, so let's start. All right, welcome everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us today for this little session on ASO. My name is Christian, and I'm your moderator today. Super pumped to run this event with our friends from Adjust, AppTweak, Delivery Hero and Nowtel, and we will talk about ASO or App Store optimization today. We've got a great lineup of speakers, which I will quickly introduce to you before we actually get to topic of today, which is ASO. So yeah, my face is here as well. I'm at the very top. I'm Christian. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Customlytics. We do consulting for all things around mobile marketing, and I think that's it. We'll cut it there. I'm handing over to Oya. Oya, how are you?
I'm good, Christian. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Oya, the team lead customer success for MENA, and we do at Adjust as mobile attribution and analytics.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Then next up, we would have Mohan, but unfortunately, Mohan fell sick this morning, so she will not make it, meaning we can skip her and move over to Adjust from Talk Home. How are you?
Thank you, Christian. I'm good. And this is Ijaz, who's basically our digital marketing team lead over here in Talk Home, which is basically international calling and messaging app operating on VoIP services, voice over internet protocol. Glad to see you all.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining. And then last up, we have Simon from AppTweak. How are you?
Hi, Christian. Doing good, thanks. Super happy to be here. And yeah, for the intro, I'm head of ASO at AppTweak, and AppTweak is an ASO tool. So if you're looking to do more around App Store optimization and want some data, want to make a clear cut in what's useful, we're here to help.
Awesome. So because we will have different levels of knowledge in the audience, we will start with a little introduction to the topic of App Store optimization or ASO. I will keep it short, 5 minutes-ish, and then we will move over to the discussion part, which is, I guess, the more interesting part and also what everybody has been waiting for. And then in the end of the discussion, so I think something like quarter two, or like after 45 minutes, we will have time for Q&A. So if you have any questions from the audience, you can write them at any time. We also have some people from AppTweak here to kind of take them down, and then we can answer them in the end. So yeah, make use of all the great experts that you have here with me on the show today. Cool. So without further ado, let's get right into it. App Store Optimization, or ASO, what does it stand for? So App Store Optimization stands for the process of essentially maximizing or increasing the amount of organic app downloads that you, or general app downloads that you're getting from the app stores. And there are two main aspects to it. One aspect is increasing the visibility, and the other is of your app in the store, and the other aspect of it is increasing the conversion rate of people landing on your product page in the app stores to people actually installing your app. So those are the two main headliner goals, really. The one is discoverability. Discoverability is about essentially generating more installs because your app is found by more people. There are a couple of techniques that are typically used to kind of work on this part or kind of make it better. The very obvious one is keyword research, which where you need a tool like AppTweak for. So kind of finding the right keywords, finding the keywords that people look for so that your app ranks higher for these, because you then kind of start using them in your text elements. Other aspects that play into it are, of course, also uninstalls and uninstalls, as well as the quality of your ratings and reviews. This is all the things, and many more actually, that Apple and Google take into account to rank your app. And if your app ranks higher, you will get more installs. That's the basic explanation. And then the second goal is the conversion rate. And the conversion rate on the right-hand side is much more about increasing or maximizing the rate of people that land on your App Store page from wherever. So it can be from the search, or it also can be from your paid ads. Everybody has to go through the App Store, or App Store, Play Store, to install your app, to kind of get it on their device. And that's why it's so important that in this step, you try to maximize the conversion rate. So you try to not lose people in the store. What do you do there? This part is more about the visual appeal of your App Store experience, really, and fulfilling the user expectations. So when you think about paid advertising, then this part is very much about how the App Store should still match what the user is expecting when they click on the advertise, like the ad somewhere. It's also, of course, about ratings and reviews. If you have terrible ratings, that will also harm your conversion rate there. But these are the two main goals, really, of App Store optimization. And following from these two main goals, there are many activities essentially that that you can do, or that fall into the category of App Store optimization. Why is it important? Well, it's kind of, I think, quite easy to explain, actually, because there is no way how users can get your app, without going through the app stores, meaning, like I said before, everybody has to go through it. And that's just a big, if you would work on conversion rate optimization, that's a big conversion rate killer if your app store is not optimized well. So I think this is the easy explanation. Like I said before, everybody that clicks on some advertising or you do paid search, all of them, they all land on this product page. So it's just like super important to optimize it and optimize the conversion rate there. If it's not optimized well, it doesn't only harm your paid advertising. I think for paid advertising, it's easy to explain because, of course, you always pay for the click that happens much earlier, and then users land on the store page. So everybody that doesn't install because the conversion rate in the store is not great is essentially wasted marketing money. I think that's easy to explain, but it actually also hurts your organic traffic. Because also there you will have people that would have installed the app for free otherwise, and they don't if it's not optimized in a proper way. So so much on that. App Store optimization is a big field. I mean, you see us from very different companies talking about it today, but it's a big field with a lot of people that are already kind of looking into it and they're kind of working on it, and it also changes all the time. That's kind of, I think that's an important realization. It changes all the time because Apple and Google change things, or sometimes even other players in the industry change things. And also, I think important to understand that it's Apple and Google who own the algorithms and hence the rules of the app stores. So it's very much comparable to the scenario that we had for search engines, primarily Google, of course. In the past years, when it was always the the SEO people trying to optimize their websites and then Google changing stuff, it's a kind of similar scenario on the app stores, where guidelines are changed and then ranking algorithms are changed. So yeah, it's in constant motion, I would say. Yeah, I think in terms of how a typical process looks like to optimize your app store appearance and your ASO in general, is that it, as the slide says, it starts typically with optimizing the metadata, which is essentially all the written aspects. Before you can optimize your metadata or the text elements, you have to run a keyword research, where again you will have a hard time if you're not using something like AppTweak for it, or some tool to kind of understand what keywords are relevant. So you have to do this keyword research, then you have to optimize the texts and start using the keywords that are relevant for your app more. And then there's also, of course, a visual aspect. Like I said before, the visual aspect is typically more important for optimizing the conversion rate, not so much for the discoverability part. And then ASO kind of has this interesting character of kind of spanning over to many other areas of the app product. So it's not a sheer marketing topic, or at least what we always see is that it's the most successful if it's done by a cross-functional marketing and product team, meaning that also things that the product team can influence, like the quality of the product, which will kind of which have an impact on your ratings. That's all important for ASO as well. And I think that's a good summary of the topic. And yeah, here we see again what's all part of ASO. And I think, yeah, here's it explained again, how you do keyword research. I think that's quite granular already. I guess if you have questions about how keyword research works, you can also ask a question in the chat and we'll be happy to answer it. For creatives, it's essentially testing, like it is for if you test your if you A/B test your paid ads as well. Similar story, trying to understand and iterate your visuals and kind of trying to improve results there. All right, so that was it from my side. I will stop the monologue now, and we will start into the conversation. So. Hope everybody is still here. Nobody fell asleep. Then we can start with the first question. So maybe to you, Adjust, or also somebody else. My first question would be, what do you say are the most important, the key elements of ASO? How do you see it? What would you say is the most important part, and how do you kind of optimize that?
Thank you, Chris. Before we jump into the main elements of the ASO, I just wanted to add one thing.
Yeah.
For all the
Yes,
users,
please.
that whenever we are talking about the search engine, and whenever we are talking about the search queries, and we find to search something over the internet or anywhere in the search engine, like the search engine behavior is involved, we will be talking about optimization. If there is a Google, if there is an App Store, if there is a Play Store, if there is Amazon, whatever the case may be, but whenever the search is involved, so obviously optimization will be involved. Apart from the paid aspect, which is already been explained by Chris. Now, what is basically the optimization technique? That is all the elements or all the attributes which you keep in mind or for which we qualify to tell the search engine that yes, I qualify for this sort of user intent for which the user is searching. And what we do over there, we put our services, our product, what we are offering based on the queries which user is searching. So what search engine do? They basically bridge the gap between what the searcher is searching for, and on the other hand, how we are going to fulfill it. So that's the basic story, the bridging between the search engine and the fulfillment. Now, how can we do that? That's again a lengthy and a very complicated process in some aspect, and yet very simple on the other aspect as well. But let me tell you about something which is very obvious and which is quite simple to have. like what we can do over here. What are the elements or what are the aspects which should we keep in mind while talking about App Store optimization? The first thing is the keywords and the metadata. What your user is searching for to reach you. What your user is searching for to reach out to your services, or any other competitor in your industry to whom he can reach. So those sort of the keywords he is using in the search engine to reach out to you, those keywords should be used in your metadata. Your metadata includes your app name, your app subtitle, along with that your app long description. In some cases in the App Store and the Play Store, it differs a bit, but I think down the line when we go in depth analysis, we will discuss that as well. Then when the user comes over here, so obviously your app reputation is matters a lot to him. And the first thing that your app reputation has is how much download volume your app has. That's another aspect. Then the app download velocity. This is again a very common behavior among the search engines. The more download velocity you gain, search engine favors you the most. If it is you take it anywhere search engine, you have a good CTR, you have a good download. Obviously, search engine is going to favor you. That yes, this is the sort of a business, or this is the sort of application which is fulfilling the user intent, and the user is going to appreciate it. So obviously, the search engine is also going to favor you in that area if you are having a good velocity, download velocity. Then there's a conversion rate. That if a user lands on your page, so is it converted? Does he download your app or not? If he is having a more conversion rate, a more higher download ratio, obviously, then the Google take you into consideration, and the search engine take you into consideration. And obviously, ratings and reviews, as previously discussed by the guest as well, which most of the time it depends not only on your marketing effort, but also depend on your product quality. Then the retention rate. If a user installs your app, how long he's going to use it and how much time he used to spend on your app. It depends from the industry to industry. Let's suppose if it's a social application. So obviously, out of the 24 hours, how much the user is going to spend on your application and what time share do you take out of his 24 hours. It's also a very important factor, but it depends it varies from the industry to industry. If it's something like for a very minute use for all over the day. Let's suppose if I have to use just for a call, so obviously I cannot use it for the social purpose or for the social interaction. It's just for the communication. So it depends on the industry to industry. The more time you required, so the better ranking you will be getting and the better download volume you will be getting. Then the app performance, obviously the crashes, how much bugs do you have, how many times your app crashes. That's also one of a technical aspect on which we'll be talking. And this is the time we go back to developer and ask, please do it and fix this. This is the issue we are facing. So it's a mix and match. What we are looking into the app store and then go back to developer and asking for the feedback that can we fix this. Then on the other hand, at some point there is a role of backlinking as well. I believe if some people are from the SEO background, search engine optimization background, they are well aware of the backlink, that what are they and how they are going to affect your search engine ranking. But over here, they're having a role, but not that obvious as we are talking about in the SEO. And especially in the Google Play Store optimization, we are having a role for backlink, not that prominent in the App Store and so on. So these are some of the basic elements when we talk about the ASO, we should keep in consideration.
Nice, thanks a lot. So it sounds like actually you've invested a lot of thoughts into ASO at your company. Indeed, out of curiosity, how big is the team? And I guess probably also relevant for people in the audience. How big is the team in your company that works on ASO? How many people are working on ASO?
Currently, we are having a mix and match team. Like the same team is having expertise of SEO as well. We're about 5 to 6 people in the same team. We are looking for the ASO and SEO at the same time. So that's the reason that we are having a mix and match. Obviously, both are the search engines, and I believe there is much analogy between these two search engines that can be replicated over here and there.
Yeah, very interesting.
I think here what's super interesting is that everyone can already hear all the detail levels. Actually, it's not just basics, but going into backlinks, it starts going to be quite advanced. But I think what's really great with what Ijaz explained is you already start also to understand what I like to call the philosophical side of ASO, which is just, in the end, you have to remember it's about the user and understanding where they come from. And so you really have this keyword side, which is really about the search behavior. And you have the conversion aspect, which is more about their expectations. And the only thing I would add is when you start thinking, okay, I want to be improving ASO, you really have to get started with that question of what's the first thing I should address? Is it the expectations, make sure everyone understands, or is it more like finding more people who are searching for a product like mine but don't know of my app right now?
Okay, basically, it depends on the product life cycle stage you are. If you're going to create a new application and look into the market at what sort of application people are searching for, then there is a different aspect. You'll have to go into that specific market, and specifically AppTweak tools provide you this that analysis tool that you can go into that area and you start looking for the most trending application in that geographic location, and then go for all those applications who is having the new entrants in the last 30 days. Like the new application has started getting ranking in that specific area. Now you're in a stage that you have not decided what type of app I'm going to develop. If you're going to decide that, so based on your market research, that will help you a lot. At what type of app should I develop? Once you have an app developed already, then obviously you are restricted with to little options. That now you have your app, you have decided what services you are going to offer, and like if it's a game, so obviously we have a lot of arena to play with. But if it's a real business, like if we talk about my own industry, so obviously we have a business behind an application. Our application is a tool for us, but our business is not based on the app development and app ranking. So here you have decided your industry. Then you have to go for what the user is searching for, what his intent. You have to do the keyword research first. You have to do the competitor analysis first. You have to see who is the better performing competitor, and then identify the gaps with those competitors, analyzing their ASO practices and what are the best practices they are implemented where we are lagging. And each and every step includes a specific comparison. Like you have to compare your metadata, you have to compare your screenshots and the industry, you have to compare the frequency of changes occurs in the overall category, the first thing. Then what are your competitors doing in that specific area? Like if how much time they are changing the screenshots in the last 3 months, how much time they are changing the metadata, how much time they are changing the app title. So obviously, then you are restricted by a lot of options that you cannot implement. So your benchmarking is a bit limited when you are having a specific industry relation.
Yeah, that's great. I think maybe one question that comes naturally once you start thinking about comparing to your competitors is also, and just also trying to find where you want to start, is really what are the KPIs you look at first when doing ASO. And I think here we also have Adjust with us. So maybe Oya can also chime in on this one, because I know they have a ton of great KPIs to monitor in their tool.
Yeah, sure. So from our side, it's first starts with the differentiation with the organic and the paid users. So with the organic users, if we just take also into that, so the user engagement, retention, and monetization are the levels that the app developers, app marketers are looking for, right? So you look at time spent per retained users, or maybe sessions per users, or return on ad spend. These are the key metrics when you are trying to understand what is the audience flow within your app. So then you can look into if your users are uninstalling your app, which can happen, and then if they're reinstalling your app again, which this also creates the visibility, understand what is the user cycle within your app. Or if you have a subscription app, or if you are tracking ad revenue, ad spend, these are the metrics that you would look into. So it first starts with the differentiation, and then we go into the post-install metrics as well, right? So these are the ones that I was going through. So when we say the in-app events as well, that are pretty important for us, and that helps the app marketers to understand the true user value that is being driven. It also comes through the in-app events. So, for instance, if you are a gaming developer, you might be interested in tracking the tutorial completion, or it could be the level unlocking, or if you are a finance app, it could be credit card application, or for e-commerce, you might be looking into the first sale, which can be also very important for you to understand. And for subscription apps, it could be 1 month subscription and travel if your user is declining the travel, right? So these are the very important metrics to understand what happens when you call the user as organic, and then what is exactly the triggering section is happening within your app. So this is the first bit of the puzzle for the KPIs, which happens on aggregated. And it just also provides the aggregated level. Every single KPI that I just mentioned, and so many more of them, is also available on the user level as well. So you first start the puzzle with unlocking the puzzle with the aggregated level, and then you move on to the user level, which is understand the audience as the first person, so you can understand what each and every user is actioning within your app, to understand your user segment and do your optimizations accordingly.
I think now that we've talked so much about keywords, I think I have an interesting follow-up question on that, which is maybe best for you, Oya, and Simon. How do you see it with your clients? So, okay, or the other way around. When we do ASO projects with our clients, and it's a bigger client that has that is big enough to have this like dedicated brand team that all of a sudden wants to have a say in everything internally, what I've seen is that very often there is, or like, yeah, frequently, let's say, and it's very often frequently, there's a clash between the texts that we would want to use, or the performance marketing people would want to use from a keyword performance perspective, and what the brand people want to use for the sake of, I don't know, using some nice brand words that don't have any search volume, but they still want to use it. How do you see that in your client projects, and what do you do about it? What's the argumentation line that you use?
So I'll get a start here, but it's definitely a challenge whenever working, I would say, not only with big developers, but any developer trying to develop their brand at some point start having a marketing team that is going to discuss, should we go for this very keyword-oriented approach, or should we say, in the end, people are only searching for our brand? And to me, this ties back to the KPIs. The advice I give is just, let's run a test, and Google Play, especially when you want to see the impact on conversion, is very helpful with that. But let's just run a test, and if you see that there's no impact on conversion, then there's a rationale to say, why wouldn't you do it? Because it's not hurting how people see your app, and it will get more people to see it. If, on the contrary, you do see that there is a preference, then you also compromise. And I think it's really where ASO starts being interesting as well. It's because if it was only about targeting the high-value keywords, we would be speaking for robots and not to users. And today, that's not how Google and Apple are framing ASO. So I'd say the middle way is usually just to say, let's run a test. Let's everyone agree to have data as the judge here.
Well, I use the same argumentation. I would hope that it resonates more, but but yeah, it's square. It's also not limited to ASO, right? It's the same when you look at performance marketing and you look at the creatives you use there. It's the same thing. Sometimes it clashes quite significantly between brand and what performance people want. Okay. Oya already talked a bit about it, but maybe we can kind of focus a bit on this part. So I would like to understand a bit better, maybe from you, Adjust, how you, and I think you even talked about it slightly before, or briefly before, how do you, like, when you approach ASO, how do you cater for the different stages in the funnel of the user? Or it can also be just like when you have different markets and you have the feeling that one market is in another kind of development state yet. How do you differentiate for that in your, or do we have different strategies for that in your ASO, or how do you tackle this?
So that was me, or sorry, did you say Adjust?
Both of you, if you like.
Yeah, please go ahead, Adjust. Sorry, I was going to me because we don't really do air, so I was like, is it Adjust or Adjust? No, go ahead, please.
I think you're on mute now.
Okay, thank you. So basically, it's about strategies we are going to implement whenever we are new into the market, or we don't have that visibility over here in the market. And some stages we are having visibility, but then we have to increase the conversion. So if we chop it down, so it's all about your funnel. As like the first thing, that if you're nowhere in the market and you want to jump into it, so obviously you'll have to start an awareness level. And what in the awareness level we do, that's basically to enhance the visibility. And on the technical terms, we can call it impressions as well. The more impressions we get in the App Store, it is impacting our visibility. So how can we enhance the visibility? The main area we should look into, or we will be focusing on, will be the keyword research. We have decided to do the keyword research, an extensive keyword research required for that specific thing. And it again depends on how smartly you do selection of keywords. The AppTweak can give you all the data, whether you are having it for the competitors rank keyword, whether you are having for the category top rank keywords, if you're looking for the last 30 days trending keywords, everything is in front of you. And the volume of the keyword, the chance score for your application, again, the keyword efficiency index, and all these attributes of each keyword is in front of you. How smartly you are going to select it, I believe, without looking into this quantitative analysis, the first thing I'd look into from qualitative perspective, that is relevance. If the keyword is relevant to me, then I have to look at the further areas of the volume and all that. If that is not relevant, or that doesn't have that intent which I'm serving in the market, so obviously I don't look at that. No matter how much downloads is bring into the category, or how much download is brings to the other application in the same category. But if it's relevant, so obviously I'm going to pick it. Once you have that keyword selection and you have successfully deployed that keyword throughout your metadata, so obviously you start getting ranking for that, and started appearing in the search results for that specific keyword. That's basically the awareness level on which we are focusing on completely the optimization of the metadata, more strengthen your keyword research, more make it more relevant in all these aspects you should be working on. Now you have gained the visibility. But okay, you are appearing in the search results, you are appearing in the top 10 results, the top 5 results, and all that. Now, the second thing is that you have to make it up to the consideration, which is the middle of the funnel level. You have to make it up to the consideration of the customer, that whether they should click on your application or not, whether are you successfully communicating what you are serving or not. So that's where we comes the relevant app title. And that's a bit tricky part. At the same time, you'll have to include the keywords. And on the other hand, you will have to make the app titles which can make sense to the customer. Sometimes the keywords, so manipulation of the keywords within the app titles, at the same time keeping it like it should be having a pitching aspect, it should be having a more conversion center, which can enhance the CTR and all these. So that's a bit challenging that you keep balance between these two. And then you are having subtitles. Observe what is visible on the search page. Your app logo is visible on the search page. Your app name is visible on the search page. Google and Play Stores, Google Play Store and App Store, slightly it differs on what they show in the search page. Then there is somehow the ratings appears. Then there is your subtitle appears. So these are the aspects in which you can ask the customer, you can convince the customer to click on your search result. And that's have to enhance the CTR. And to bring the customer to your app page. Here you are in the consideration phase of the customer. He is starting considering you. So now he is starting considering, what can you do for this consideration? You'll have to make your app logo more prominent. You'll have to make your app logo more communicating what you are doing. At the same time, your app title having the same attribute. Your app subtitles having the same attribute, which can enhance that CTR, which can bring your customer from the search engine page, search results page to your app page. Like in here, what we do, we use some elements like #1 application over here or #1 application in this category. We do code it, but at least code something which can be backed by your data, which can be backed by the evidence. Don't code something which you cannot claim later on, which you cannot back later on. So obviously that's another which can cause your customer who has come here and he again look into it that yes, there was something which is not real. So obviously that can create problem in the later stage for you. Initially, you can get a download, but later on, that's not a long-lasting strategy.
Yeah, it's not going to convert. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So now this is the consideration phase from where you bring your customer from the search results page to the app page. Now you are on the app page. Your customer is considering your application for the same purpose you have mentioned. What are the elements, or what should you do further to make it up to download? Now you have a lot of area to play with. Your app title is visible, your app subtitle is visible, your rankings, your ratings, your reviews are visible, your metadata is visible in terms of the long description is visible to the customer. But what are the more conversion centered area? That is your screenshots. Are they communicating what exactly you are serving? Are they more conversion centered? Like you are showing the inside of your application before someone has installed it. You're showing the inside of your application before someone has installed it. And on each page, what you are showing, you're having 8 areas to 8 screenshots you can put in the Play Store to show the customer that what we're offering. If your screenshot is clear, if your screenshots are exactly communicating what the user is searching for, and you have a relevance from the search page, from the search query till the long description, you have a completely consistency and relevance that what you are claiming in the title, you are complementing that in your subtitle, then you are again giving complementing it on your screenshots, then again you are complementing it with your long descriptions, and last but not the least, the keywords and your reviews matters as well. If you're, let's suppose in my case, if I'm talking about the calling application and somebody is looking for the best calling, yes, I had the best calling experience with the international calls. So obviously that's giving a signal to the search engine as well, and obviously the attribute or the service you're pitching for the customer that is being backed by the customer review at the same time. So it's more conversion centered that you show. Once you're optimized on this level, on-page factors are completely aligned with the rest of the strategy, so it can push better download as well.
And so maybe a follow-up question, because today we're also trying to focus a bit on the MENA market, but what do you see is specific in terms of how to do ASO for the MENA market, and also in terms of user behavior? So I think maybe we can actually start to switch things up a bit with Oya about the user behavior. And I think Christian and Ijaz, you can add to the ASO part as well.
I think when we start making a specification between, within regional market, I guess we start with the organic versus paid, because from our perspective, when we look at the mobile measurement market, the ecosystem is expanding on a tremendous level, right? So you can see the number of smartphone users, the download numbers, the consumer spend, the subscription numbers are showing a steady growth. So while this is very great for the industry to show a great potential constantly, this also creates for the appetite for the new app developers and the marketers. So the different services, products, and offers that is being pushed through the existing and the new players, the app marketplace, as how we see it, is becoming increasingly competitive. So the interest grows, the marketplace develops, and becomes this amazingly the sophisticated and competitive marketplace. So what we see, especially for the newcomers, one of the main key takeaways, as we also published reports on our end, it's it's really difficult to be able to make that breakthrough. So as you are having the organic user, and when we make the comparison, organic users matter the most because they often result in the high-value users, right? So it's the users who have discovered the app and then decided to download without being promoted. So when the user, the end user that shows that interest in your app, instead of being exposed to it in different ads or different platforms, they become your organic users, and then they have the tendency to show a higher engagement. So if you look at the monetization levels, or if you look at the user spend and that user stickiness that you see within your app, and when we see the comparison between different markets and so on, one thing that we can see in common, and that applies to each and every single region, I would say, the organic and paid, the organic users are your most valuable. So in order for you to understand that the user spend and every single metric that you see, you will see a very high engagement levels, including MENA as well.
What about you, Christian? What do you think are the specificities of MENA?
Well, it's definitely I think in some minor parts, or like in some aspects, it's definitely different to other markets. But I think in general, it's also not too crazy different. So what we see is, and that's not even so much related to ASO necessarily, is that, let's say, the general acceptance for some communication like push notifications, for example, is higher in the MENA region than it is in Europe, for example. In Europe, we always have the feeling that everybody's like, oh yeah, no, I don't want this yet another app to send me some messages. So that's something we see. Outside of that, I don't even think there's too many things that are really so fundamentally different. The stores follow the same logic, of course, as you know. So yeah, I think that would be one aspect that I would mention.
Well, I'd say on my end, I will contradict you a little bit about this one thing I see
yes, please.
in the store, and it's just that Apple and Google have both adapted to the reading direction, which is right to left in Arabic, and this is rather minor, but something to keep in mind if you're not from the region yourself, because I see in these creative trends, whether actually from paid advertising or in just creatives on the App Store, I do see sometimes people trying to have connected screenshots, for instance. And if you just have a Western designer create a template and not be informed that it's going to go in the other direction in MENA, you can end up having some rather unfortunate surprises in your screenshots. So it is minor, and I agree that in the overall spirit of the store, nothing really changes, but there are these small things you should remember to pay attention to. And obviously, I always say, if you can, try to get the help of a local to help you understand how it works. I don't know if Ijaz, you also had specific tips to the MENA region. You're muted right now. Ijaz, I think you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, Simon. Actually, the point you raised, I totally agree with you. And the main reason is that normally we don't notice such minor points that, yes, you should be focusing on that as well. And especially we are jumping to the market, which is not that much explored or that much trending in the all over the globe. So yes, I believe that that is one of the main aspects that you should be looking into. And normally, if we talk about the localization, so obviously the help of native or involving the native people is always helpful, because what I have experienced so far in the localization approach, that yes, I can understand, I can translate the keywords, I can translate the other aspect of the screenshots and everything in the metadata, and I can extract the keywords. But whenever it comes to the use of those keywords, so then we if I'm not native to that region, so obviously I'm missing the semantics. I'm missing that aspect in which I can communicate fluently. So if I write something in Italian, so obviously it can be translated from English to Italian, or to the Arabic as well. But once an Arabic start reading that from native perspective, and our users are always native. So when they start reading it, so obviously that feels a bit awkward. And later on, I have seen our own practices like that as well, and that was really really an experience that what we should do and how should we do. So obviously the involvement of native in all your practices over there, and especially to those markets which is not touched but explored, will be a lot of help.
Amazing.
I think now I just froze, or is it just me?
I think I see your camera frozen, but I can still hear you, Christian.
Yeah, me as well.
So, well, the time is also flying, so it's already 1:45 the next hour, and I think we wanted to also get some questions. So while we start picking a couple of questions in the chat, please, everyone in the audience, do ask more questions. There were already a few that were answered by the AppTweak team, but we have the chat, we have the questions tab. And one final question on my end for everyone to kind of launch the opening salvo is if anyone is new to Aso and growth today, if someone is launching an app in the MENA region, for instance, what is the advice you would give them in terms of where to get started?
I can do that. So from our perspective is, and what we suggest to all of the app marketers is that first they need to understand where their users are coming from, right? So you need to make a differentiation between the organic and paid, and then if you are working with different paid marketing channels, you need to be able to understand and attribute the users to the right sources. So the first piece where we start with is understanding where the users are coming from, and the next step is to be able to understand what is your audience like, and through that you need to be able to set your KPIs right. And it goes through the in-app events as well. So if you are, as I shared a couple of different examples for that, depending on your vertical, you need to understand where your user flow is going through, and you need to be able to understand what are the metrics that you want to be able to track for the users, so that you can understand what is your audience's interest in, and then what are the things that they're not really showing an interest. So this also helps you not only optimizing your marketing budget accordingly or understanding your organic users, but understand what is the product that you are offering, because mobile landscape is getting more and more competitive. So any kind of message that you send out to your users, or any kind of product offerings or incentivizations that is happening through your app, you need to be able to track everything so you can optimize your product as well. That will be my key takeaway to share with the audience.
I can quickly go next. So what I would say, and I found that super interesting, Adjust, when you talked about how you even view ASO from this customer-centric lifecycle perspective, and you really think about, okay, what's the awareness part of it, what's the middle funnel, what's the conversion part. That was super interesting, and because we see it the very same way, and I think my advice for somebody starting off in ASO on that account would be to really understand where App Store optimization can kind of sit in a broader marketing strategy, and really also understand which part of the user life cycle someone is in when they are getting kind of, when they get in contact with your App Store page. So really, like you said, understand in which part of the funnel a user is, and then what they would be expecting from the ASO perspective. So I found it very interesting to hear from you, and like also how you explained it with the different stages of the life cycle. And maybe that's also relevant for the audience, because we recently we've published a nice little framework that does exactly the same thing. Essentially focuses on the parts in the customer life cycle, and then kind of maps out which marketing activities and kind of strategies you should be using. So I will share that in the chat. You can download it, take a look at it later. It's called the Marketing Master Map. But yeah, bottom line to answer the question is really understand where ASO lives in the customer lifecycle, and I think that's very important.
Yes, Samir, I'd like to add one thing. Oya does explain that from the customer side, and Krishna also gets on board. But I'll assume one thing: you have decided to launch your practices in the ASO area specifically. If you have decided that ASO is one of the marketing channel I'll be using, then whether ASO will be decided or not, that's another debate. Whether you are going to jump into that market or not, that's another debate. But once you have decided that you are jumping into the MENA market, you are using ASO as one of your primary marketing channel. I'm taking these two constants in my consideration. Okay, fine. You have finalized that. What you'll do after that, now you have to analyze whether ASO will be fruitful or not. That's the better debate, and that's the better question you'll be asking yourself. And for that, you'll have to check the market size. You'll have to do the market research that how big the industry or how big the market over here is in the MENA. How many competitors are already there who are serving the similar need? And if I'm there, so what I'm adding in value over there? Let's suppose like some of the areas is that you'll be asking from your product level perspective, from the product quality perspective. On the other side, you'll be looking at the market size as well. If there is a coherence and if there is a similarity and you think that there is a gap that I can fulfill, yes, you definitely should go for the MENA market in that specific area. But you have to look into the market geographically, then you have to look into your specific industry, and then look at the number of the competitors you are having, and then also look into the number of the demand. From here, you can get the demand that will be your category, downloads over there, the keyword volume over there, whether those keywords are generic or these are branded keywords. If you're going after the branded keywords, so don't go. That's not a piece of chunk you will be getting in the future. You should be looking into the no ground, the no man ground, like where all players are equally playing. So how big that market size is, how big that area is that you can play with your application. So once you have that market research fulfilled, and obviously on the other hand, as we added, that you will be having your research from the customer end as well, from the user behavior as well. After that, I think you'll be in a better position to decide whether I should go or not.
I think everyone gave great advice, so I'll be very short for mine. And just adding to this, it's just usually I say pick one thing to do first, because whether we're talking about paid or ASO, even if we're talking specifically in ASO about keywords optimizations, there's always so many things you can choose to start targeting. And usually my advice is take the time to choose which one to do first, but don't try to do everything at once, because it's when you do that, you do have better chances, hopefully, to get a nice increase in the end, but you won't understand where the increase is coming from and what's the next step. So actually forcing yourself to choose one thing to do first is usually what I advise clients to do as well.
Nice. So I guess by this time we can probably use the last few minutes to look into the questions that came up. And like you said, Simon, a lot of them were already asked by your team, but let me check.
I saw one that I actually like quite much.
Yes, please.
Which is about the uplift. How can you figure out the incremental uplift from Aso optimization versus brand push? I don't know who wants to get started on that one. Maybe Oya, if you have something about measuring the uplift on of brand push on ASO or vice versa.
Not sure if Oya can still hear us.
Oh, sorry guys,
Yeah.
I missed
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah, it's breaking up a little bit. In the meantime, I was trying to figure out which one that I was going for. Which one? Sorry for that, Simon. If you can repeat.
I was asking about measuring incremental uplifts. I think the original question was uplift from ASO, but also comparing it to uplift from brand push. So what's your take on being able to measuring those uplifts? Because obviously you can track paid with Adjust, you can measure some ASO impact with AppTweak, but it's always a game where one affects the other. So how do you also look at the uplifts?
So with the uplifts and how it goes, I think in our world it's usually coming with the retargeting effects as well, because once you acquire the user, whether it's paid or organic, to be able to just make that uplift, which means for us it's increasing the user engagement and activity within the app. It comes with the for example, Rakesh just mentioned as the brand push. So what we see is to be able to reach out to your user, whether it's push campaigns or any other uplifting effects that comes through the retargeting campaigns as well. So that is usually creating the difference when you want to have your users more effective within the app. So that is the part that we also see very effective, to be able to have more engagement and have more interaction within the app. I don't know if you answer the question, but I can also give more elaboration.
Oh, I think it's interesting, and maybe Christian and Ijaz, because I know this is a topic that is affecting all of us. So I do want to hear from you guys as well.
Yeah, I think so. My 2 cents on this would be that it's difficult. It's difficult, and you will not find the the exact perfect answer or number of how much the brand push affected it versus the ASO. That's not going to be possible. What should be the approach is very much like Oya said. What should be the approach is ruling out everything that you can rule out from the equation, which is, if there is, assuming that this brand push is also not tracked with some like tracking link or anything, then for example, ruling out everything that is tracked with a tracking link, so that's not part of the equation anymore, trying to understand where the installs are coming from. So if you are using tool like AppTweak, look at the keyword stats, because if it's a brand push, then most likely most of the installs that are affected by it will come from the brand keywords. Big surprise. And that's the thing, is you can only get close to, or you can try to get as close as possible to the truth, but like, yeah, it's going to, for the non-tracked channels, it's always going to be impossible to find the exact correct number of like what's the uplift. Of course, you can get close. You can get an approximation.
Ijaz, I don't know if you wanted to add something to that. I think for what Christian you were mentioning about AppTweak helping you measure, I think what's also interesting when it comes to trying to single out the uplift of a change you've made is just looking at as a type of keyword, being able to create different groups and decide if you're talking about an uplift in visibility or in downloads from keywords that are related to your brand, also your competitors. In my experience, when you have an uplift in your brand traffic, you might actually sometimes become more relevant to some of your competitors. and the generics as well. So it's always also just trying to correlate when you made one change and what happened in the next 2 weeks, I would say.
Yeah. All right. So I think despite the fact that we have more interesting questions, I think we're up with the time. Yeah, I guess for everybody that still has an unanswered question, you can just reach out to all of us, and I guess primarily to Simon and the AppTweak team after the show. I think they will be happy to take on more questions. Yeah, the only thing that's left from my side is thanks a lot everybody for joining today. Thanks a lot for you guys on the panel, of course, especially, but also thanks a lot for everybody from the audience. I thought it was very interesting, some good learnings. Nice one with the reading direction, Simon. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and stay safe. Hope to see you around soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.